It's time to start Shakespeare's Coffee Break. Welcome back to Shakespeare Month. Today, our special guest is actress Mira Singer, here to talk about studying Shakespeare from the actor's perspective. Today's show is brought to you by friends of the Colorado Northwestern Field Museum. What will you discover this summer? And also by the Shakespeare Yogi. Use code SHAKES.approved to save 50% off of your first private class. And the Renaissance Stream Guide, your TV guide of online Renaissance Festival entertainment with over 70 streams every week. Check them out, facebook.com/Renaissance Stream Guide. Hello, my friends. Good morning. Happy Monday to you. It is good to be here. Your friendly neighborhood Shakespeare here. I love you, you love me. There is mutual glorious affection. Did you have a good weekend? I did. I ran a half marathon on Saturday. It was a good time. Yes. But welcome. I hope you are all here. If you're watching the show later on YouTube, thanks for that. But also, if you ever want to watch it live, go like and subscribe to Shakespeare's Coffee Break on Facebook. That's facebook.com/Shakespeare's Coffee Break. We have an amazing show for you today. As I was saying, actress Mira Singer is here to talk about studying Shakespeare from the actor's perspective. Mayhemmer, my co-host, is here as always. And by always, I mean Mondays. And sometimes Tuesdays. And we're going to have a great time. Also, thank you to the Jackdaws for providing this music. And now, let's bring in your co-hostess with the co-mostess. Is that a phrase? Yeah, let's say that's a phrase. Let's say that. All right. She is the pink hair, the fuchsia to my green. She is the random 19th century vampire hunter look to my 16th century poet. I give you Mayhemmer!
Hello, 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 hello.
Hello! Oh, look at that cup. I like that. Is that a kitty face? What is that?
No, it's a little girl's face with heart lips, and on the inside it says "Morning Sunshine."
Oh, that is adorable.
You're supposed to drink it this way so you can read the words, but whatever.
Yeah, that works. That works. But you know what? Let's stop things off with a nice noisy slurp, since this is Shakespeare's Coffee Breakers.
Oh,
yummy. Oh, you added an extra little to that. Yep. That was nice. That was good. It's just good internet audio. I don't care who you are.
There you go.
Mayhemmer, how was your weekend?
It was great. I got to house hunt again. Put an offer on another house because the first one was a hot mess express. So here's hoping that this one falls through. And I worked on my dress for New Jersey Ren Fair, and I got to start with the new game for Nat 21 on Sunday for the next 5 to 6 weeks.
Oh, what what is that? You're gonna have to talk about that for a moment.
Oh yeah, it's Robert Turk's Weird Scouts. It's a game that he created, and it's a whole book that he made. It's super great. It's family friendly, super wholesome. It's meant to be able to play with parents and their children, which I love as a mom. But it's super fun. Like, it's super cute, really easy to kind of go by, and we'll be doing that instead of Sunday side quests until Apollo decides to return from the world of the Ren Fair.
Oh, all right. Well, it's going to be a little while. It's going to be a little bit because that's what he and I both do for our jobs, right?
I know.
I mean, theoretically, in theory. I mean,
I have faith.
So I have my first in-person gig coming up real soon. So week after next. Oh my God, I'm freaking out.
I'm so excited for you.
I am excited too, but dude, I am losing it. I already
told you that whatever fair that I end up at, I'm going to run around obnoxiously and pretend to be somehow related to you. Now you're going to have the Duchess of Wakanda in New Jersey demanding poetry on the spot.
All right.
Let me hear your European poetry, sir.
is the Duchess of Wakanda Shakespeare's Dark Lady?
I'm here for it.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, that's gonna be it's man. But also Also, internet. I'm gonna go with the one real quick. I'm gonna go with the one shot. Internet, don't mess this up for me. All right. So my first in-person gig is in Smithville. Let me bring that up right there. In like less than 2 weeks, April 24 and 25. But after that, it's gonna be a few weeks, and then I'm gonna be down in Texas at the Scarborough Renaissance Festival. Don't make them shut down. Stop trying to mess this up, internet. All right. I
need them to get their life together. I need that whole state to get their life together. Like, I don't know what they're going through.
Them and several others.
I'm telling you, my home state of Louisiana is looking between themselves of Texas and Mississippi going, what is happening
Louisiana
right now?
looks like a rational place right now. They're like,
for once, we don't look like the crooks.
yeah, they're like, wow, look at us not being like, white trash.
Wait, they're like, now we knew what Mississippi was about, but Texas? Come on.
Although my favorite story ever concerning Texas and Mississippi comes from my friend Aaron, who his fiance, now wife, at the time lived in Mississippi, and he lived in Louisiana, and he was driving to go see her, and he picked up, as you do in Louisiana, drive-through daiquiris. And
yes,
he had a taillight out, or he was speeding or something. And so state trooper pulls him over. And he's like, oh no, this is going to go really badly. Out of state plate. And Aaron is a black man. And he's just like, oh, this is going to go terrible. Oh no, I'm in Mississippi. Oh no. Cop pulls him over. He says, so very respectful though. He's like, sir, do you know why I pulled you over? No, officer, I don't. You have a taillight out. Oh, okay. He goes, here's your ticket just to get it fixed. And then within the next 5 days, come back, show us you got it fixed. You're good. He goes, oh, okay, great. He goes, but then, so he's talking to him. Is that alcohol I smell? He goes, I don't know. He goes, are you drinking? He goes, oh, no. Those are daiquiris. Those are frozen daiquiris. He says, you can't. So let me go Mississippi South here. You can't have alcohol beverages in your car, sir. He goes, oh, no. They're covered. He goes, the straw paper on the straw does not count. Make it a closed container, sir.
Oh,
goes,
no. That's where he messed up. You can't have a straw. It has to stay without the straw, and you put tape over the hole.
Well, so apparently that was before they were putting tape over the holes. And it was just like, he goes, that doesn't, he goes, you put it like in a thermos or something. You don't have it just sitting there in the cup holders. He goes, yeah, I just picked him up like half an hour ago. He goes, I know probably where you got him. He goes, I don't know what y'all think you're doing in Louisiana, but you know what? We have rules. And then he goes,
we have laws here.
He goes, when Mississippi is telling you you're doing something wrong, he says, and they're probably right about it, you know you messed up.
I love my home state. I love my home state so
it's a glorious place. I love it. I love it so very much. John Van Vliet says to you, May, don't let the Texans or Mississippians come into your state.
Look, all I gotta say is I have nothing against people from Texas and Mississippi. I've lived in Texas. It's their government I have a problem with. That's my problem. The governor of Texas can suck it. He's always been able to suck it. Mississippi. Wow,
we're going political here this morning.
But I'm not political. I just don't like him as a person. And Mississippi's the state that just took off the books the law that says you can't have interracial marriage as of like 7 years ago. So like they're a trash fire anyway.
Mississippi, I will say to you, with all of the warmth in my heart, bless your heart. Bless your
heart. They come from a good family. I'm sure they come from a good family.
I'm sure they do. Mississippi, I have nothing but love for you. So many of my Louisiana Renfest fans come from Mississippi. So thank you. I very much appreciate it.
I don't like your government.
Also, you have very interesting ideas on food, Mississippi, and we're going to have a talk at some point. All right. Are you okay? We're going to have an intervention. Are you okay? Look, you shouldn't be allowed to fry everything, Mississippi, okay?
Okay, hold on, wait a minute.
You can't fry everything. No, May, I am right on this.
Hold on, bro.
I am English unless I'm right.
Hold on. I was like, hold on, bro. Wait a minute. Now remember where I'm from. I come from like the Chitlins, the tribe. Now fried tripe. Oh my god, so delicious. You just do
yes, but you know, in Louisiana, I haven't been to. I mean, I'm sure there are places and people, but it's not fry everything as a matter of course. Mississippi, I have been, I have eaten, and it was fried everything as a matter of course. Now, fried Oreos are a delight. Fried pickles are a delight. But there are other ways to prepare food. I'm just letting you know.
No.
This isn't I say this as a friend. I say this as a friend.
I mean, there's boils too. We can have boils like crawfish boils, shrimp boils, crab boils.
You went so southern right there. I love that.
My bad.
You were like Bubba Gump letting fall snow about everything that you can do with shrimp. That was amazing.
All the things. I've cooked it all the ways.
Like, are you gonna go into a 14-hour monologue about it? Because that'd be amazing.
I already told my friend this summer, if we get this house, the first thing we're doing to break that backyard in, because it sits on it. See, the accent's coming out. The first thing that we do to break that backyard in, because it sits on like an acre of land, is a whole shrimp and crab boil. We're gonna take a table, cover it in newspaper, because that's the only thing that this city's newspaper is good for, is covering for a good boil, and then welcome to the South. Like.
That's amazing. All right, love it. Well, you know what? Enough of us. We've been having a good time. Oh, we are. John Van Vliet says, Shakespeare, your Southern is terrible in a funny way, though. Of course it is. But you know what? If I were doing a movie, within 5 minutes, you'd buy it. You'd be like, you know what? There you go. All right. So let's bring in our guest. She has studied Shakespeare in a variety of ways. She is an actress. I've had the great pleasure of performing with her in the Zenith Players weekly readings at least 2, if not 3 dozen times. I give you actress Mira Singer.
Yay!
Arms, hooray! Welcome to Shakespeare Month. Mira, happy Shakespeare Month to you.
Thank you for having me on.
Yes. So I'm hoping that you were enjoying May and I just talk about just random nonsense that one of us will say something and then the other one will jump off a cliff with it, and that's just kind of how this goes. So tell the world, tell the internet a bit about yourself and your bona fides. How did you come into this world of Shakespeare and wanting to study it, so to speak?
Yeah, well, it started very early. My parents took me to outdoor Shakespeare when I was young, mostly Twelfth Night. I feel like I saw Twelfth Night a bunch of times. There was this company up in the middle of the woods somewhere that had an outdoor stage. It was wonderful. So I was very into it. And I also had these books on tape that would tell stories for kids. And there was one that had, it was Jim Weiss retelling Midsummer and Taming. And then, so I was always very interested in it. And then I ended up studying Shakespeare in school, and then just doing Shakespeare plays any chance I could get. And then, went into, I studied Shakespeare in the UK and in New York, in lots of different places.
Oh, fantastic! Oh, well, that was a weird button to hit. All right, fantastic. Now you are an actor, and how long have you been an actor? Sometimes professionally, oftentimes just like with me, jumping on a Zenith Player show.
Yeah,
I know surprisingly little about your background.
Yeah, it's true. Well, it depends when you want to start counting. I did Boston Children's Opera from when I was very little, and then as soon as I got out of grad school, basically I started trying to do more professional or at least community theater, which has been a lot of fun. So yeah.
All right, and where did you go to graduate school?
Well, I actually went to grad school for writing, but I managed to talk my way into some acting classes to audit at the same time. So I did 2 different grad programs in writing, but I also studied Shakespeare at Lambda and Royal Welsh. I did a study abroad program there, and ended undergrad. I studied Shakespeare as well at Vassar.
Oh.
Both May and I were like, ooh, Vassar. Oh, my.
I know, we're like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, aren't we being ivy covered fancy? All right, fantastic.
7 sisters.
Oh, it's a seven.
Oh.
All right. You're not Ivy. You're one of the sisters. Oh, very
But
good.
shout out to Merely Players, the student, one of the student Shakespeare groups. I did a bunch of shows with them.
Fantastic. So, so Shakespeare is a love of yours. You have a graduate degree in writing. Dear sweet God, you're too highly educated to be on this program. So I'm sorry, most of us are jokers. Now, so my question to you.
I'm just here to be pretty.
Me too. That's exactly what I'm here to do. And then because I was dumb enough to name the show after me, I then feel the need to augment the prettiness with just filling the void with talking. So yeah, that's what I do. I mean, because we could just sit here for half an hour like this. And I mean, and that would be great, but it would probably get dull. Yeah, a little bit. Skosh.
Maybe
So
a session like that.
So all right. Remember also, if we do this, like Esme is demonstrating, we can take care of a little.
You hide, or you wear like this to hide that mom neck that I've developed over since giving birth a couple of times. You just.
Oh! That's also why I like starched collars, because if I can just be like, oh hello, yes, I'm quite fancy, yes. Now,
I know, right?
Mira's like, what did I get into? Why did I reach out? Why did I get into
I
this?
was inspired by both of your outfits. That's why I wanted to wear something fun like this.
Oh, look at those sleeves!
I love that whole shirt.
Thank you.
I love everything about it. Now I'm like slowly looking at it to figure out how can I recreate it, because I'm going to be making clothes soon.
I never get
now,
to wear it, so thank you for the opportunity.
There you go.
Oh goodness! So let's talk some Shakespeare and the studies of it. You were getting into some stuff before we began the program. I was like, "Hey, hold it! We're not recording yet." So now that we are live, and now that we can talk about studying Shakespeare from the actor's perspective, let's do so, because I come at it from an actor's viewpoint, from a director occasionally, from a dramaturg sometimes, and a writer myself. So from your POV, let's talk. Let's talk some scene study and whatnot.
Yeah.
So let's get into this. So begin at the beginning, as they say.
Well, so I've studied storytelling of lots of different kinds from lots of different angles, and I find that I can learn about one form from another, and I've studied Shakespeare from many different angles, historical and literary and performance, and I find you can learn a lot from actually doing or learning how to do an art and how to perform Shakespeare, and that changes some of the ways that you look at it. And so now I can, when I go to see a Shakespeare performance, I have those tools to recognize the choices that had to have happened during the rehearsal process behind the scenes, and I can see sort of what they're doing that's working and how they're doing it. And so, like with Shakespeare, it's a challenge because obviously they were written a long time ago, and there's sometimes a little bit of a barrier to understanding. Now, Shakespeare can be very understandable, but it's the actor's job to make it so the audience knows what you're saying and knows what it means, because there's Elizabethan jokes and references that we don't get anymore, and also the text can be a bit dense if you're not used to it. But if an actor knows how to speak it, and uses the right cadence and knows what they're saying and says it like they know what they're saying, then it can be very understandable for the audience. And so, and also making acting choices makes a big difference as well. And the thing about Shakespeare is there's no one right interpretation of anything. There are some wrong ones, but there's a lot of different ways you can play it. And so a lot of it comes down to making a choice of what way you want to play a certain thing, and finding an interpretation that's supported in the text, and then playing it that way and getting it across. And there are some choices that are stronger than others, is the word that we use. Like you can choose different interpretations. They might both be right, but if you try them both ways, one of them may be a stronger interpretation. So for instance, in Much Ado About Nothing, the prince, there's a lot of debate about whether or not he's in love with Beatrice, because there's some lines in there where he says, Beatrice is like, oh, everyone's getting married, so go waltz the world but I. And the prince goes, will you have me? And she goes, no. And so there's debate about how serious he is in that moment, and you can absolutely play it either way. But I saw a production, the David Tennant Much Ado, where they play it that the prince is sincere, and it's a strong choice that makes very good sense of the text. And when you see the way it plays out through the subsequent lines, when Beatrice's uncle comes in and says, will you go look to those things I taught you of? And she goes, I cry you mercy, uncle. It reads as like, please get me out of this awkward situation. And so making that choice there makes later lines and the rest of the scene work really well. And so that's an example of like a strong choice.
I enjoy that perspective, and then coming at it from another way of again, it's just a different interpretation. The historical context of, well, the prince would need to marry in order to carry on the familial line. Beatrice is a lady of high enough standing that, it's not an insult to the royal family of the kingdom of the two Sicilies for the prince to have Beatrice be his betrothed, and they get along well enough. That's like, you know what? She's cool. So my interpretation of it, and I had this conversation many years ago, when I was doing a live production of Much Ado, was that the prince is not in love with Beatrice, but holds her in very high regard. So almost of a thing of, all right, you can to put it into a 21st century perspective. Okay, we're not in love, but we're friendly. And so, you know what? We're both hitting that age. Let's just go get married. We'll have a nice time.
Yeah, exactly. That totally works as well. And that's why also thinking about the historical context is also super important, because you need to figure out that the choice that you're making has to be supported not just by the text but by the context. Like, is
absolutely
this plausible and could have happened? Like, yeah, no, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. So and they're both valid, and depending upon who you have as the performers, can influence that choice. And it doesn't really have that big of an impact on the rest of the show, but just that little microcosm, that moment at the ball is nice. So I like that. And then
and you're right, a lot of it does depend on the actors.
Yeah. And then the concept you were mentioning earlier also of mustache twirling if you're a villain. When to mustache twirl, when not to mustache twirl. My thinking is specifically Richard III, one of the greatest villains of them all, is a mustache twirler when he's by himself and talking to the audience directly, because it's like, oh, hello, welcome to my play. I am a Bond villain. No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. Petting the cat and twirling the mustache, etc. But then, because he is a high-functioning sociopath, in my opinion, IMO, because of that, he is able to turn on the charm immediately as soon as anyone else walks in the room, up to and including the widow of a man he himself killed, and win her over that, oh yeah, you want this. I mean, it's insane.
It's true, and that's one where you can talk about, like, there are wrong there's no one right, but there are wrong ones. If you played him as evil throughout, like even when he's talking to Anne, it's like, well, why does she marry him then? Like, your version is sort of one of the only ways to play it. He has to be charming for it to make any sense to the audience.
And you can play a little bit of evilness, but no villain genuinely thinks of themselves as the villain. They are all the hero of their own story. Even though Richard himself does say, I am determined to prove a villain. It's just like, he says it in the opening freaking monologue. It's like, all right, since I cannot be a lover, I am determined to be a villain. So it is a little bit arch at points, but I think that's also what makes it so much fun. Richard III is it a history play? Is it is it one of the tragedies? Is it borderline comedy? I mean, in the Shakespearean sense, it's not a comedy in as much that so many people die. But in terms of our modern sensibilities, it is at points laugh out loud funny.
Yeah, I've been talking a lot with people about this, about how like genre in Shakespeare's time is different than now, and like Shakespeare's definition of comedy and tragedy was one thing, but it's not the same as the way we use the words today. So there's like it was just straight up like, if it has a happy ending and people get married, it's a comedy. If everyone dies, it's a tragedy. But nowadays it's like we call anything that's funny comedic. And so that's another thing where like if we try to apply modern standards to Shakespeare too much, you can get people trying to play the tragedies or dramatic plays dramatic all the way through, and they miss that some of them are very funny.
Yeah, indeed.
There can still be humor there, even when it has a tragic ending.
Richard III and Romeo and Juliet are at points riots. They are fantastic. Mercutio is drag queen personified in terms of let's live large and be on RuPaul's Drag Race. That is my thinking of it, and that's Harold Perrineau and Baz Luhrmann with the Romeo plus Juliet in 97 and 98. That was the perfect choice. But
there's funny moments in the Scottish play, and even Titus. The second half, I saw it perform. Second half of Titus is hilarious.
I love Titus so much.
It's like after the most dramatic scene, we've just had like all this heart-wrenching gore. Then they sort of need a breath. So you have this scene where they're sitting around, and Titus is just making jokes about how between him and his daughter, they only have one hand left.
Yep, it's ridiculous. It's just like, how about that? It's just like, oh my god. But it's the whole thing of, if you can't laugh at your situation, then that way madness lies. Whereas Titus is like, I'm not going to go mad yet. Totally. We're gonna hold it off. We're gonna hold off the madness.
The audience, you can't just if you keep it all at the same tone, then it'll hit less. You gotta have those moments of comedy to make the dramatic stuff hit more, and vice versa.
Otherwise, it is tragedy porn to an extent. It's horror porn. It's
a slasher movie.
Yeah, I mean,
thing.
Which I am not against. Like if you can make a good slasher flick out of Shakespeare, please do it and let me know.
I'm here for it.
Let me come in and narrate it.
And if you're gonna do it with any play, Titus is one of the bloodiest.
Oh my gosh! So on that, there is a tradition at a lot of Renaissance festivals, Mira, to do a thing called Bloody Best, where you take a Shakespeare play. Sometimes it's just sequences from several plays, and you add not just blood, but a lot of it, a ton of blood. And then also let's take a play and rewrite it, or at least restage it, so that it's a gore show. For instance, A Midsummer Night's Scream, or The Bloody Wives of Windsor. Whereas
I love that.
So I was doing one called The Bloody Wives of Windsor, where when Master Ford is chasing Falstaff dressed up as the hag off stage, hitting with a cudgel, and blood spurts out. He had blood squirters everywhere. And then we go backstage, and you just hear me beating the snot out of this woman. And the stage manager's just hosing me down with blood. So I walk back on stage, and I look like I was just in Carrie.
Oh, God.
It's ridiculous and wrong, but yeah, you can turn so many of them into a little bit of a horror show, especially if really play up the comedy of it.
Yeah.
So here is a question for you from a friend of the show, Dan Wansel. So let me actually put you up on screen. Yep. And he says, any thoughts on portraying a character who's doing something which would have been completely acceptable in Shakespeare's day, but really isn't okay to a modern eye? He feels like there's a line between portraying a person who would not be guilty for what they did and not trying to say, no, really, that's a perfectly fine way to behave. So your thoughts on this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And when I talked before about context, and that's one reason you have to both consider the context in which the play was written, but also the context in which you're performing it. So when you're making those choices about how to play something, you also have to think about how is it going to read to a modern audience, and is it going to be, dissonant with today's values or just straight up problematic? Because there's, again, and you can make choices that are, that are maybe even different than how it might have been played, but that still work with the text. Like, I was in a production of Merchant of Venice, and that is a very difficult play, but it is absolutely possible to still put it on. And we talked a lot behind the scenes.
Portia's the villain.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's hard to figure out how to do it. So we talked a lot about behind the scenes about how to do it. And I did an exercise once where we played the final trial scene, and they said, okay, play it where Shylock's the villain. Now play it where Portia's the villain. And it worked both ways. Just you could do it either way depending on how you want to play it. And so when we put on the full production, what we did was everyone in the show is a terrible person. And
oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
There is no good person in this play, up
No.
to and including Jessica. Jessica is basic. She makes the relatively understandable point of, all right, Dad, I'm leaving. I'm marrying this guy. I'm going to change religions, etc. Because that's kind of what you do.
Yeah.
And he's like, what? But she does it. She's so heartless to her father. There is not a single good person in this play. No one.
Exactly.
Continue.
And so you can do it that way. And so, like, there's a lot of anti-Semitism, and the anti-Semitism in this play is very complicated because when this play was written in Shakespeare's time, there were no Jews in England. They'd all been kicked out. So this was theoretical. And so Shylock is, there's some bits of him that historically have been played in a very anti-Semitic caricatured way. But at the same time, he has this "hath not a Jew eyes" speech, which is incredible. And he's in an impossible situation. So there's a difference between the play being anti-Semitic and a character being anti-Semitic. And you can do that and portray it as a bad thing. So we leaned into the awfulness, and we made the audience really uncomfortable in that trial scene, with everyone laughing uncomfortably at Shylock's misfortune, to make it clear, like, this is not good. They are doing a terrible thing to this person. And you can even do that. You can change who's the good guy and who's the bad guy in the context of a show, and that way you can make it into a social commentary kind of thing. Like, not everyone in Shakespeare, it's not like a "this is how to live your life" thing. You're telling a story, and as long as the story coming across the audience doesn't have unfortunate implications, there are ways that you can make it work. Some plays this is easier to do than others. Taming is another one that is very difficult to figure out how to put on these days.
Again, two terrible people. My favorite version of it is two terrible people who completely deserve each other.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to play that across from Claire Bohannick last summer. Zenith put it on, and we elected to do it, stage it, she and I, largely 1940s-ish, like a fast-talking, high pants, we wear jackets, Katharine Hepburn type comedy.
I was gonna say very Katharine Hepburn, yeah.
Yeah, and so she was talking a bit. She was going very Katharine Hepburn-y and talking, and I was just bum the lines. I will you, nil you, will wed you. It's like, oh, with my tongue in my tail, your tongue in my tail, Kate. Oh, it's set, and we were going that fast,
really
and it was fun.
That is such a fast talking scene. So bringing it into that, that works really well.
And then when we went into, let's call it the torture porn, later, it was just going nuts. It was he starts the going nuts with her in order to think she's going crazy. It starts as gaslighting, and then it just made the choice of, oh no, he's fully mentally unstable as well. He needs to be on meds. She might just need therapy. He needs meds and therapy. And
he needs
it's just
professional help.
Oh yeah. He needs
extra help.
He needs a therapist and a prescriber. I mean, that's what he needs. And we ended it with basically Petruchio going full Joe Exotic, and it was insane. And like, I had my big giant tiger here with me the entire time that I was talking to the tiger and not to Kate. I mean, it was stupid and fantastic. And
exactly.
They were two terrible people who totally deserve each other.
It's a strong choice that you can support with the text. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh yeah. Her whole thing of place your hand beneath his foot, may it give him ease. Not over like, oh, this is total subservience. She started putting up on screen, Bianca, listen, I'm giving you a hidden message here. Let him think he is in charge. Girl, this isn't the way to do this. Also, by the way, you are in a bad marriage. Petruchio and I have
you might have Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, Petruchio and I have come to an understanding about things, and it's just oh, all right. I mean, and there's
that children's book on tape that I listened to when I first got into Shakespeare. There was Taming was one of the ones, and it used some lines from the play, but it wasn't the full play because it was for kids. And the way that this guy narrated the final scene was kind of like that. He didn't use the exact lines, and he sort of was like, she was saying, he sort of put his own spin and interpretation on like what she really meant was this. That made it much better. And then
it's like you kind of have to.
Like, what? Yeah.
So I saw a version of it. Have you ever seen the movie Pleasantville?
Oh my gosh, yes.
All right. So Pleasantville, so great in some ways, so problematic in others. But what they did with this production of Taming of the Shrew is they started it completely black and white, as in everybody was in grayscale makeup. The set was in grayscale. It looked like I Love Lucy. And they started playing it that high and crazy. And then when Petruchio and Kate were together and he's just being terrible to her, they started cleaning off the makeup.
Oh.
And so they were colorizing the show at that point of, okay, now it becomes a little bit more real. And it was weird because then you have her sister and everybody else is in shades now of black and white makeup, and they were fully colorized. Their costumes were colorized. The makeup was looking like people now, and it was brilliant and amazing. And
super cool.
And at the end, the only two fully colorized people were Petruchio and Katerina, and it was because they were the only two who basically had come to a full human awakening of, oh yeah, humans are messy. And it's like, no, Petruchio, you can't do this. This is wrong. You can't do that. Kate, you're a terrible person. And just like you're nasty people. But just
that's really cool. And
so brilliant.
About strong choices.
Yes, Dan Wenzel was saying, Taming of the Shrew for kids. Twitch.
Yeah, I know, but it's very odd thinking about it, looking back.
I was like, what?
Yeah, I know.
So I also have to say, you may have a ringer in the audience talking about you being knowledgeable and engaging, which you certainly are. Lila Singer says, great, Mira Singer, knowledgeable and engaging. I think you have a ringer.
Watching.
But we're going to pause right there because I've got to go pay some bills. So Mira Singer, please stick around. We'll be back in just a few minutes with you. Now's a chance for you to go get a drink and have a drink and a pee. So we'll be back in Act 3. All right. So back in just a minute with our special guest, Mira Singer. But today's show does have some sponsors, and we want you to support the show by supporting our sponsors. Starting off with the Renaissance Stream Guide. The Renaissance Stream... Where'd that thing go? I had it. Oh, there it is. The Renaissance Stream Guide. Your TV guide of online Renaissance festival entertainment with over 70 streams every week, including live music, belly dancing, play readings, like the Zenith Player shows, yoga and fitness classes, comedy, art streams, and demonstrations. Like and subscribe to facebook.com/Renaissance Stream Guide, and you might find not just your favorites, but discover someone new. It's a delight. Go like and subscribe, facebook.com/Renaissance Stream Guide. And the Shakespeare Yogi. I want you to use code Shakes.approved to save 50% on your first private class. Leonard Chilingarian, the Shakespeare Yogi, helps creatives develop authentic connection to balance and character by combining yoga with Shakespeare accessibly and playfully. Virtual pay-what-you-can classes are available over Zoom on the first and third Sundays of the month at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, with a recommended $5 donation. Creatives of all kinds are welcome. Virtual and private lessons are available by appointment. Private lessons are built to the individual needs and goals of the individual creative. Those private lessons are valued at $50 for each hour, and use that code Shakes.approved for a 50% discount. For access and payment info to the Pay What You Can and virtual classes, please email Lena, the Shakespeare Yogi, at theshakespeareyogi@gmail.com, or send her a direct message on Instagram at the Shakespeare Yogi. The Shakespeare Yogi, hey, noni, namaste. And finally, today's show is brought to you by the Friends of the Colorado Northwestern Field Museum. Their summer dinosaur digs are now accepting applications for summer 2021. Let us find, there we go. Go to the link that's currently on your screen to sign up and get information. While many people only dream of taking part in a dinosaur excavation, through Colorado Northwestern Community College, that dream can become a reality. Located in the heart of dinosaur country, CNCC offers you the chance to work alongside professional paleontologists to uncover fossils that have been buried for over 74 million years. During a 2-week session, you'll learn about paleontology by digging, brushing, and uncovering a unique fossilized specimen. There's no experience required to take advantage of this amazing opportunity, only a passion for experiencing fossils up close and personal. Participants also have the option to earn college credit during this 2-week session. Email Liz Johnson at elizabeth.johnson@cncc.edu or call 970-824-1119 for more information. What will you discover this summer? And if you would like to sponsor Shakespeare's Coffee Break, you can do so. You can just first offer send us a Facebook message to facebook.com/Shakespeare's Coffee Break, or send me a message on all the things such as my main Facebook page, facebook.com/Shakespeare Approves, or even email me. I realize I don't have my email up in here anymore, so I'm typing it out right now. Email Shakespeare at shakespeareapproves.com. Add start at $50 a month and would be glad to talk to you about it. I have room for 4 ads every month to put in. Otherwise, it just takes over the show. Unless you want to sponsor a show entirely yourself and say, hey, this is mine. And then we'll talk about rates and all that. But let's get back into our fantastic conversation with Mira Singer. She is an actress, and we're going to be talking about studying Shakespeare from the actor's perspective. Welcome back, Mira Singer!
Hello.
By the way, that is a fantastic name to have for an IMDb page. And it's like, and introducing Mira Singer. I mean, yeah, like you really did either that or you chose well. I don't want to say what it was, but I'm guessing. All right. So, Mira Singer, before we continue any further, you do have a backstage.com profile. So people can go check out your variety of headshots where you look almost insanely delighted to be there. Like you're not just smiling, you're like in some of the pictures. It's like you're smiling like me, and I smile like a crazy person. You're like,
and I also wanted to give that link because up under the media page there I have links to all the Zenith shows that we've been doing online during the pandemic and a bunch of other anything that I've been doing. There's a recording of online. I have linked there.
Oh, that is brilliant. Look at you go. Look at you work at that system. And you can also hire Amira as a freelance editor. Oh, sweet baby Yoda. Go to jesterbellfreelancing.weebly.com. Why Jesterbell? I have to ask.
Well, I've always liked jesters. The idea of, they're the ones who can speak truth to power. They're funny, they wear silly hats, and they say what's really going on through humor. And I love the idea of art as social commentary and being able to change the world through art. So it's all wrapped up in that. Lovely.
Fantastic. So changing the world through art, let's continue our conversation on studying Shakespeare from the actor's perspective. Mm-hmm. So we've talked a little bit about Taming of the Shrew, a little bit about Merchant, a little bit about everything, but is there one specific that speaks to your heart and soul?
Well, my favorite Shakespeare play is definitely Twelfth Night. Partly because I saw it. Probably it might have been the first one I saw, but I've always loved it. That's just a very fun show.
All right, I do a version that feels like the perfect intro to. Oh, on Wednesday night, join me for 12th night in the Three Bears. But no, I do my own silly version of it called 12th night and the Three Bears,
Nice.
and it's a wonderful just farce. It is basically helping write the template for how farces can work. That and the comedy of errors, which,
Yes.
by the way, not that particularly funny. 12th night, funny. Comedy of errors, not really.
It
Parts
depends
of it are
on
okay.
It's another one.
I'd
Make it funny.
the big saving grace of comedy of errors is it's short. It's like if it takes you longer than 90 minutes to do that play, you're doing something wrong.
Something's wrong.
There's another one where I have to think about modern audiences because there's so many times when they're beating the servants, and if you like play that straight, it's not funny. So you have to do something silly with it, or else it doesn't work anymore.
Oh yeah, absolutely. A thing to do with because both of these plays involve twins. Comedy of Errors, multiple sets of twins. It's like Big Business. By the way, Big Business, starring Lily Tomlin and Bette Midler, a way better version of the Comedy of Errors. Just
I know that was another one
there.
of our favorite movies growing up. It blew my mind when I figured out that it's a version of Comedy of Errors.
Someone posted the other day on Facebook of like, oh, can we get a Big Business version of Comedy of Errors? It's just like it already is the Comedy of Errors. It is. That is what it is. Like beat for beat, it's the Comedy of Errors. Only better and 80s, so shoulder pads.
One of the other topics I considered about talking about was modern adaptations of Shakespeare archetypes like that, because you see them all over the place.
Oh! I could modernize some of this for days, or just reimagine different settings for days. It's great, and it's evergreen. That is the beauty of it. That is the beauty of Shakespeare.
Showing up all over the place, like Pride and Prejudice is just Much Ado About Nothing.
Yeah. I would argue more satisfying in Pride and Prejudice, and I love Much Ado. It is my absolute favorite play. It has some of the best monologues ever written, but Pride and Prejudice is more satisfying.
Yeah.
But then again, I came to Pride and Prejudice first in the 1990s when I was in junior high school, and Colin Firth as Mr. Darcy. Yeah, I'm just like, yep, that's how we live. This is how you do things.
Yep, that's exactly how you live.
Oh goodness, and that's also fun fact. That is why he is Mark Darcy in Bridget Jones's Diary.
Interesting.
Mira, you're just nodding like, I'm just going to say sure. I've never seen Bridget Jones.
I haven't
seen that. You know what? I don't know why I never put that. I haven't seen that movie in so long. And then
that is why. I mean, not really germane other than I brought it up. But yes, in the actual book of Bridget Jones, she has a crush on, as they put it in the book, the actor who plays Mr. Darcy. And thus, in the movie, because they have the ability to get him, they just decide to create Mark Darcy and thus play him very Mr. Darcy-ish.
I'm done.
Because
I don't know why I never even...
It's a very meta joke.
They broke the fourth wall with that one. They broke it real good.
Speaking of, I had something down on here about meta jokes in Shakespeare. There's a bunch of in-jokes that are easier to see if you're an actor, because there's all these theater jokes that pop up.
Mm-hmm.
There was one that we figured out backstage at a Zenith show in Julius Caesar. Two of the most rhetorically brilliant speeches ever written, Mark Antony and Brutus. But the last line of Brutus's speech really sounds like the actor accidentally read his stage direction.
Oh, we talked about this in another with another person. I was just like, lol.
With Claire, with Claire.
He does this whole amazing speech, and the last line is, "I pause for reply." And when you're reading the script, you're like, wait a minute. This was compiled after Shakespeare's death by actors. Did someone just read the stage direction out loud?
See, and sometimes I've heard when I've gone to some plays and I'll hear stuff and I'm like, wait a minute.
Or whenever someone says, whenever someone says the line, and it happens in multiple plays, go off. Not go off and find this, but more of go off.
Yeah, and I'm just like,
because you're an actor who can't get the freaking point to leave the stage.
Get off the stage.
Or where they straight up say, "'Tis your cue."
Mm-hmm. Speak,
was just
Prince.
like-
'Tis your cue. I'm sorry. Speak, Count. 'Tis your cue. I guarantee you that was the actor, man at the time. Frank.
It's your turn. Can you just
Frank.
Can you go?
Frank.
Yeah, totally. Oh, and another one that's Hamlet's speech about to the actors. I've studied that in drama school about like, hey, this is Shakespeare telling his actors how he wants them to read it. Do not saw the air with your hands thus. Do not overmouth the words.
That was him working through. That was him working through some stuff. Like, you know what? I've been mad at you people for 10 years. I'm so writing it down. I'm writing it down and I'm putting it into Burbage's mouth, and Burbage is going to yell at you for me because you don't listen to me. No, you're going to listen to Burbage though.
Yeah, it was just so funny because like as I got older, and you know, like when I was younger, my senior year of high school, because I was in AP, we did Shakespeare for our AP class, and my teacher would be like, "Does anything sound off to you?" And I'm like, "Is he actually telling him to get off the stage?" And she goes, ta-da! And I'm like, and so we would read these different plays, because the great part was the way we learned it is that we would get it and she would make us read the parts instead of just silently reading. But she wanted us to have fun with it, not worrying about cadence and stuff like that, just to see if we would notice something first before we worry about like the iambic pentameter and all that stuff. And like every now and then I would just be like, is he telling somebody, you know, and it would just be comical because I was just like, were they that dense? Were some of these actors that dense where they're just like
so Dan Wenzel saying Burbage just totally sawing his hands for the entire show out of spite. Be like, to be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows. And he's looking off stage at Shakespeare the entire time. He's like, hey, jerk. And just like, I hate you, Burbage.
Going off of what you were saying about Shakespeare's, it's meant to be read aloud, and I think it's a mistake when so many schools try and teach Shakespeare and make you read it to yourself, especially without any background about like how this is done. So like the seating in the Globe is terrible. You wouldn't go to see a play, you would go to hear a play. And so reading aloud is definitely the right way to go. Though it helps even to hear it done in a production where people have like studied and looked and worked through what it means. Because Jason Slavic, who's a fantastic theater maker, check out his company Liars and Believers, did this great demonstration where he showed that if you just say Shakespeare and with no intonation, it sounds like gibberish. But if you put in like, if you say it like it means something, like when we go up and down and pitch and stuff when we're talking about something, it's a lot more easy to understand. So he would demonstrate with the "Oh, for Muse of Fire" speech. Because if you go, "Oh, for a muse of fire that would ascend the brightest heaven of invention, a kingdom for stage, princes to act, and monarchs to behold the swelling scene," what did I just say? But if you But if you go, "Oh, for a muse of fire that would ascend the brightest heaven of invention, a kingdom for a stage, princes to act, and monarchs to behold the swelling scene," it makes a lot more sense. So like I saw a production of the first time I saw Troilus and Cressida. I hadn't read it, didn't know the story at all. The actors did this. They spoke like as if it was modern speech. They spoke the way like you were talking about, the 50s with Katharine Hepburn and all that.
Fast talking high pants.
Right. The way people speak has changed over time. So they spoke it the way that we speak it nowadays. And I could understand the whole thing because they knew what they were saying and they spoke it in a way that was like understandable.
Yeah. And it was funny because like they even like in school, they let us watch some very interesting renditions of Shakespeare, like Mel Gibson and Hamlet. It was comical to us because we were just like, Mel Gibson, what is he doing? Because we're used to seeing him as other things, but it kind of made sense to us in a sense because we were able to relate to characters actors, I should say, that we had seen before. And like you're saying, speaking like you speak today, we actually were able to get it more than just
Absolutely.
reading and going, WTF? What is this?
Exactly. Yeah.
mean?
Well, there is
the way to go, but if you don't know what you're reading, it can turn into gibberish. Like what?
Yeah.
there is so much more we can talk about with this, but far more time than we have allotted for us this morning. So real quick, lightning round question from Dan Wenzel for you, Mira. For the histories, do you find looking up the real history of the characters to be helpful, or does it just get in the way of the revisionist story which the text provides?
Good question. I think it's useful to know the context. Looking at the histories, the real history, is super useful for certain of the histories, especially all the War of the Roses plays, because there is a ton of complicated politics going on that Elizabethan audiences knew that we do not. So I was doing scenes from it studying once, and I was playing a character, and I was like, okay, random Lord so and so. What side am I on? Am I a York or a Lancaster? Who am I allied to? You sort of have to look up and research the history and be like, oh, wait a minute, I'm a York, but I'm married to a Lancaster, because that's the thing that happened. So in order to play the War of the Roses plays, it really helps to read up on that historical context, just so you know where your character falls. Like,
yeah, I find it's nice to basically have it as almost, let's say, coloring, but to inform, but not to dictate, because it's just like Henry VII, Henry Tudor, Richmond, he is not a nice person in life, and yet you play him as the golden boy to an extent,
right? And reverse with Richard III, because the play was based off of a history written by Richard's enemy, which is not the way things happened. But you can't play Richard III the way he historically was, because that's not the way the play is written. But it's good to know that that's not what actually happened. But especially for the other ones that are less, even for the revisionist ones, it's good to know that it's revisionist. And for anything with complicated politics, it really helps to know the context.
Oh, Henry V, where the Bishop of Ely has a freaking 15-minute monologue on Salic law, and in Act 1, and it's just like, okay, and here's why, and it's just like, he shouldn't have been called the Bishop of Ely. He should have been called the Bishop of Exposition. That's what it's just like, here's everything you need to know, audience. Also, here's why it's important. And also, we're never, ever, ever in this show going to mention this again. This is your one time.
Pay attention.
Like, cool. All right. We did one. It was great. Where the Bishop of Ely, because it's the longest speech in the entire freaking play. And it's just like, and it goes on for days. And it's like, all right, cool. Can I go to the bathroom? Yep. All right, can I go get a drink? Yep. I mean, we started staging it with the War Council leaving and coming back in, beg your pardon, and sitting down back at the table, like murmuring to each other, what I miss. He was delivering a PowerPoint. We had him delivering a PowerPoint.
Oh my gosh!
Because originally we were staging it. The original staging was, it was going to be very 13th century or 15th, early 15th century, excuse me. And I was like, no, because of this, he's delivering a PowerPoint of like, here's why we should go to war. And so we had a big boardroom table, and the king's sitting there in a throne, like just off of it, and he had his own stuff. He's going through. And it's like, all right, cool, and we did it that way partly so the Bishop of Ely could read his lines, because it's so long, and he's just like, okay. And so he had little cues, and so he's here at the computer, and there's a PowerPoint up behind him. And so in the little notes area where, like, oh, you can write your script or whatever for PowerPoint and it doesn't come up for everyone else, that's where he had his stuff. So I am looking down here, I'm looking, all right, and now I'm talking to you, and okay, cool, yeah. And he's like, all right, and then he had a little laser pointer, and he's just like, this is this. But then we still fought with swords.
Amazing. Well, that's another one.
It was PowerPoint and swords.
Yeah,
I love it.
Goes back to the topic, because that's a way where it's like, okay, how do you actually perform this thing? It's useful to have that kind of support for an actor in that kind of situation.
Yeah, it's insane, and it's beautiful, and just like, let's play this. It's just like, would the Bishop of Ely had a chart back in 1603 when you're doing it? Maybe. And it's just like, all right, you know what? Pull it down from the center. All right, and here's my pointer. And all right, so here and the boom, boom, boom. All right, here, and please, everyone, please refer to page 5.
Yeah.
Page 5. All right. Exeter, are you on page 5? Oh, I can't find it. Third paragraph. We're talking about the Salic law, Exeter. Got it. Thank you. Continue. I mean, we were just, and so we had people going, because it's so long. And we're like, there is comedy in the scene by just virtue of it being so long. And so we started injecting all the comedy into it by people just like someone falling asleep at the board table, getting smacked. It was fantastic. It's great, but the PowerPoint is mightier than the sword, Dan Wenzel says.
Amazing.
So, but Mira Singer, you'll have to come back at some point, and we'll have to have more discussions about this. Thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge with us this morning here on Shakespeare's Coffee Break. You can find excellent. You can find Mira Singer, actress and freelance editor. Go to Jester Bell Freelancing and Jester Bell Freelancing. Oh my God, I'm an idiot. Jester Bell Freelancing.weebly.com. If you want to hire her as your freelance editor, find out more about her acting stuff and links to literally every online show she's done over this last year and more at backstage.com/you/Mira-Singer/media. All right, so thank you again so much for joining us here today. Stick around, talk to you right after the show's done. So hang out backstage for just a minute. Hang out backstage? What? Oh! Terrible pun. All right. See you in a minute. Mayhammer, did you have a good time today?
I had a blast. I'm loving how my yard people literally decide to show up a day late at this time.
Oh,
so yeah,
nice.
Great. There was a dude just walking in the background, and I'm just like, ignore the man behind the curtain. But it was great.
Oh, fantastic. To be fair, I didn't see it happen. So
good.
You saw, yeah. So this, as Andrew Weber says, applauds. This was a good show today. I had a great time.
So informative.
Mayhem, do you have anything? May, do you have anything you wish to promote real quick?
Nothing really. Just stay tuned on my Face Crack or Instagram about the Daft Punk show that I will be Hipstagram that I will be a part of. That will be announced shortly, and that's it right now. I'm trying to, work on more costuming, be a cool kid. We'll see what happens. And Nat 21 on Sundays, 5 p.m. You can catch me at Weird Scouts.
All right, fantastic. And if you want to show May some love in a fiscal sort of way, you can Venmo her a tip at The Mayhammer, Cash App, $The Mayhammer, PayPal, may.hammer@gmail.com, or buy her a cup of coffee at coffee.com/The Mayhammer. And that's a good cup. And friends, I am your friendly neighborhood Shakespeare. You can follow me in all the right places. Facebook.com/Shakespeare Approves. There's an Instagram here somewhere. I don't know. Somewhere around here there is. That Shakespeare's Coffee Break. Go like and subscribe to this show at Shakespeare's Coffee Break right there. Go to my website, shakespeareapproves.com. You can buy some merch, buy some swag. It's finally getting updated for the first time in forever. I have a web person now. Go follow me personally at Shakespeare Approves on Facebook. On Instagram, Shakespeare.approves. That's the same for the TikTok as well. And YouTube, where you might be watching this show later today. Like and subscribe. Click the bell. Do random things with the bell. There's a lot of buttons. Hit them all. Thank you, YouTube. I love you. Also, if you can... if you want to support this show, supporting me directly, you can buy me a cup of coffee at coffee.com/Shakespeare. That's ko-fi.com/Shakespeare, or become a Patreon of the arts at patreon.com/Shakespeare. Tiers start at $3. They'll go up to $30, and there's lots of benefits. Everyone right now gets all of the benefits, including going to this Friday night's concert with Christina Koya for free. All of my patrons get to go to the Friday night concert series for free. So Broadway soprano Christina Koya is going to be singing with us this Friday night. Upcoming shows, speaking of things for this week, oh my goodness, Wednesday night, holy smoke, it's already here. We have 12th Night in the Three Bears, Take 2. It's been a year since we've performed it the very first time. We're at the start of the pandemic, and I've brought back the original cast this Friday night. Look for that Indiegogo page to go up to support the cast later today, probably around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That will be live. But that'll be Wednesday night, 7:05 p.m. right on my main two channels, youtube.com/Shakespeare Proves and facebook.com/Shakespeare Proves. It is the story of Viola and or Cesario, and identical twins, and love, and comedy, and fighting, and all sorts of other things. And then pirates get involved. And you're like, wait, why? Also, coming up next Friday night, I'm going to be on Pixelwick, the virtual Renaissance fair. That is next Friday night, April 23rd, Shakespeare's birthday. So join me for that. The Smithville Renaissance Fair next Saturday and Sunday, April 24 and 25 in Absecon, New Jersey. Come down and join me for that. I'll be performing live, masks and social distancing and all of the cats. Shakespeare's Coffee Break, of course, all this week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, 10:35 a.m. And then writing sonnets with Shakespeare on Thursdays. We do one at 9 in the morning at twitch.tv/nat21adventures and one at 10:35 a.m. So much happening. Do all the things. But on behalf of my guest, Mira Singer, and my co-host, Mayhemmer, I am your friendly neighborhood Shakespeare. I love you. You love me. There is mutual glorious affection. Until we meet again, stay classy, internet. Just be good. Go off and do something fun. Maybe pet a pony. Yeah, definitely pet a pony. We went long today, but that's all right because I love you. Bye-bye now. Where's the button I hit? I can't find it. Can't find the button. Can't find the button. Where is the button? There's the button.